Hey everybody, it's August 134 here.
And I'm Average Joe Squad, as always.
And welcome to another episode of Remember the Hyphen, the show where we look at comic books, movies, and everything in between. And tonight we're doing another Spidey Mist episode, keeping that Spidey Mist train rolling. This one's kind of short because we're recording this at the end of a recording session, so we are kind of running out of data. We're actually filming this on his phone.
Yeah, we had 31.7 gigs used on a 32 gig iPad, so we were not getting another video.
To be fair, it was because we just... The videos we had were long.
We had like an hour each on that app, and the one was like almost an hour and a half.
So we had at least 2.5 hours. It's okay. So for this one, we decided to do kind of something a little easy. Basically talking about our experiences getting into Spider-Man and just our experiences with being a fan of the character in general, I think, more or less. So this was kind of your idea, so I'll let you kind of lead the conversation for a little bit.
Let me set the stage for you. It is 2001. At that point, I'm a very big Batman fan. I am also, I'm 5 years old at that point. I don't mean to make you feel old, because I know you're 5 years older than I am. So you would have been 10.
Yeah.
Okay. So you were 10 and I was 5 at this point. I was a big Batman fan. So I had a lot of Batman comics. Well, and at that point, I used to buy comics from Giant Eagle because Giant Eagle used to fucking sell comics. They used to have a killer selection.
Oh, yeah, they did.
They don't do it anymore, and I'm kind of mad about it.
Because I remember I bought an issue of Spider-Man there that was... It was this weird issue. I remember because, Venom's in it, but he's all lanky. Because I think this is after he had absorbed the Carnage symbiote back into himself, which was weird. And I'm like, you can do that?
That's the first I've ever heard about it.
Yeah, basically, he absorbed the Carnage symbiote into him, which... It made him less bulky. It basically made him look like Venom if he were built like Carnage. And basically, it was a weird story because basically it was because it was after he had eaten Sandman, because he also at this point wanted revenge on the Sinister Six because they had basically screwed him over. Because this was when he had become a member of the Sinister Six. But basically, they were all like, "We're just going to use you to kill Spider-Man. Then we're just going to kill you too." So he takes over the Daily Bugle, and this is actually when Peter's this is after Mary Jane had just died during the plane situation. He came across a couple of...
I was worried they were going to do that in a PS4 game. Yeah. I'm glad they didn't do that.
He came across a couple of D-list nobodies, like a chick who dresses herself up like a squid and calls herself the Squid. I forget the other... He was so lame, I don't remember the other... Oh no, he's called the Ringer. Okay. And he literally throws razor-sharp hula hoops at people.
That's fucking stupid. We're scraping the bottom of the barrel for the ideas there.
Peter's and that's kind of the joke is because one of them cuts his costume up, the other, he gets covered in ink because the squid chick literally spews ink at him. But then he just knocks him out in a couple of moves. He's like, what the hell is this going on? It's supposed to be he's having a bad day.
Yeah.
And then he goes to the Daily Bugle because he's like, I'm out of money. I can't afford an apartment. He goes to the Daily Bugle and it turns out that Venom is just chilling at the Daily Bugle because he wants to find info on all the other members of the Sinister Six. And they're all hiding under their desks. They've been in there for days, apparently. And then it's just the rest of the story is him fighting Venom. Eventually, Venom is so not wanting to deal with Spider-Man shit that literally he beats Venom by getting a lighter and some newspaper and making a torch.
Oh my
and Venom's
God.
all right,
I'm out.
I'm out. And I'm like,
okay, but so I wasn't really into any other superheroes at that point. I knew Superman and stuff, but I was mainly a Batman guy. And I don't know, I was looking through the comics the one day, looking for something to read, and this one cover really caught my eye. And I actually do still have that issue. I'm not going to take it out because we looked at it.
Yeah, it's
this
pretty
thing
beat
is
up.
Barely held together by tape.
Yeah,
it doesn't have a back cover anymore. The front cover is pretty fucked up.
Yeah.
And honestly, the cover is held on there by 3 things of Scotch tape that are probably about 25 years old.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, this was my first ever Spider-Man comic, which was the 2001 annual, which we were talking about it. A lot of people seem to think this is a bad issue. I don't understand really why, but this was my first. This is my first one, and I mean, I think it's easy to see why because this is a killer cover.
No, that is a really nice cover.
I remember seeing this and being like, "Who is that? That looks awesome." So I got this, and I want to say I got maybe 2 other Spider-Man comics, and then the Raimi movie dropped.
Yeah.
And I went and saw it, and that was what sealed it right there. It was me knowing Spider-Man. So but I'm very glad I have this. I'm very glad I still have all my childhood comics.
Yeah.
And Thankfully, I have them all in sleeves and backers now because, dear God, I don't want to pull them out anymore and look at them because
wish I could say I
they're
have-
just beat up. But it's nice to still have this just because this is some significance for me.
I wish I could say I have all mine. I know I do have a lot of them. When I had just gotten my dog, one day, I think during a storm or something, she had literally like chewed up a lot of like books and like comics and stuff I had in my basement. Mm-hmm. Oh, I remember I was really mad at her. I got over it because she was a puppy, but like I lost a lot of things that day. I wish I could say I have everything. I have a lot. And anything I don't, I think I've gotten in like trades or stuff. I guess you want me to go on to my explanation of how I got into Spider-Man?
I will in just one second. I just want to say one more thing is that they use this frame a lot.
Yeah.
You know, they use this for this cover. Mm-hmm. It's basically the PS1 game.
Oh, yeah, that is basically the PS1 cover.
And then they used it for one of the Raimi posters.
Oh, yeah.
So they use this image a lot, which I mean, it works really well.
Yeah.
It's a nice looking cover. Next time whenever we're able to go back up to Erie and just go comic shopping.
You're hoping you can find another version of this.
I want to find another copy of this that's not so beat up.
Yeah.
Because
I'm pretty sure you can, because that annual's
kind of common.
You know what's kind of crazy? I just noticed this is from 2001. It still has the comic book code seal of authority.
Yeah, and a really small. I don't even know if you guys can see that. Yeah, there it is.
I can't believe that. I thought that like died out like around 95.
2000s. When
Yeah,
DC, it died when DC stopped subbing to it.
Yeah, I guess that's true. But then again, things blur together for me with comics.
Yeah. But yeah, that was just something I noticed is that they use that a lot.
Well, I mean, to be fair, it really
It's an
sells
iconic issue.
Well, then he's Spider-Man.
It's like an iconic frame, basically.
Yeah, because like him, is he Spider-Man? He climbs walls. Like that's such an iconic thing. Like Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends opens with Peter climbing along the screen like a spider. So like it doesn't really surprise me. So
go ahead.
Okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
We just pause there, like
No, go ahead.
where we need to go from there. So all in all, I think my experience with Spider-Man kind of is like yours. Like it started when I was probably about 5 years old, actually. It might have been more, but like I'm 30 years old, and like it's hard for me to remember things from my developmental years as a child. It's hard for me to remember a lot of things.
I have a very good memory, so that's where a lot of mine comes from.
Because I kind of brought this up when we were doing our top 10 list. We did it just before this, but basically my earliest memories of Spider-Man would be from the 95 TV show, which I probably, like a lot of kids my age, got into Spider-Man because of that animated series. Which is why when I got into comics, I'm like, this is nothing like the animated show. Are you telling me that comics and the animated shows aren't the same thing? Because
oh, my boy.
Yeah, because my first superhero was Darkwing Duck. Yeah. And basically, you know, he was my favorite character. I was really into Power Rangers as a kid. Like, I always argue my first superheroes, as much as, like officially are Batman and Spider-Man. The first superheroes that ever were piqued my interest were technically Power Rangers and Darkwing Duck.
Which fair. I'm sure a lot of people will say that.
But I remember I was watching Fox Kids Saturday mornings, and I saw the opening for Spider-Man, and I'm like, what is this? And then we get the shots of like the Hobgoblin episode where like he's getting the costume on, he puts on the mask, and then all of a sudden we see this goblin on flying around. I'm like, this guy looks scary. And then all of a sudden Spider-Man shows up, and we get that scene where he like webs onto the glider and they're like flying over buildings. And I just remember I was instantly hooked by that. Like, because it's by far probably one of the better episodes of that show too. But like after that, it was pretty much one of my favorite cartoons growing up as a kid. I remember actually when the reruns were on, I loved the symbiote episodes, the one where they, you know, had the black suit, and then at the end they introduced Venom. And I was really hooked on that. In fact, I want to say my first comic book ever was actually not like a Batman comic or like an actual comic. It was the Fox Kids Marvel Adventures Spider-Man comics. And because the first issue I ever got of anything was that, and it was the issue where Venom, they did the episode with Venom. It's pretty much a shot-for-shot remake of it. And I just fell in love with the character. I I collected, like, I had so many of those action figures. Like, my mom eventually gave away, because, like, I had, like, just, like, probably 10 or 20 just straight Spider-Man characters. Like just the, like, what you're wearing. Literally just a red and blue Spider-Man. And I eventually gave those away to, like, a much younger kid. Like, I was like, I have one Spider-Man figure. I think it's the Raimi one, which I still have. The really superposable one with, like, all
the one I found, the one that we were looking through stuff.
Yeah. And I'm like, you know what, that's good enough. And of course, I have more Spider-Man toys now as a 30-year-old man who has nothing better to do with his money.
I used to have the Spider Buggy. I kind of wish I had that one back, honestly.
I talked about this. I had the Spider Slayer toy, which, if you were a kid that loved that cartoon, when that toy came out, if you had that, you were hot shit. Like, straight up, you were hot shit.
Do you? I don't know. This might be a little past where you were getting them, but do you remember the Spider-Man swing set, like the play set?
Yeah, I think I was a little too old for that. I was probably like 12.
Dude, I remember when that came out, I wanted that thing so fucking bad. Yeah. And like I didn't get it because my parents told me there was like a recall on them.
Yeah.
Because like they did try to get it for me.
Yeah.
Because I went over to Walmart, but I think there was a recall on it because there was a lot of small like choking hazard parts in it. Yeah. So like I was never able to get it. No, and then they re-released it and like they nerfed it, so like it looked really shitty. Like shitty, yeah. So I never got it.
It's like I had so many like of those Spider-Man action figures. I had like, and all of them were just Spider-Man, but like with like gimmicks. Like I had the one with the web glider.
Did you have the Cyborg one?
I did have the Cyborg one,
which they just recently re-released as a Marvel Legend.
I had the one from the Spider-Wars episode where he had Doc Ock's tentacles in the helmet.
I think they re-released. They did that as a Funko Pop recently.
I hope that gets a Marvel Legends because I love that figure.
They're gonna re-release. Dude, the Spidey retro line is done so well. They're gonna do everything at this point.
I'm waiting for them to do a Hobgoblin figure in that because I'm getting that Hobgoblin figure.
They'd be stupid not to. They have a brand new mold for the Goblin. Just fucking repaint the thing.
Yeah, you just need to make a new mold for the head. I actually had this really cool playset. It was a Dr. Octopus playset, and it was literally just buildings, and it had like trapdoors and stuff. My mom hated it because like it had this slime with it that like you could dump all over it, and I used to dump, and it like got into like the rug and shit all the time.
Oh no.
But I loved that thing, and I loved the toys from that. Like I could go on like because like I even got like the really weird Spider-Man toys from Toy Biz's line. Like there's one where he's in like this weird like it looks like something from fucking Metroid. I didn't even know it had, like, it just said it was Spider-Man. I'm like, cool. It had a removable helmet, and underneath it was a Spider-Man in that, like, head. Mm-hmm. I didn't know that came off until I was, like almost in high school, and I still had the figure, and I was fiddling with it one day. And the mask popped, and I'm like, are you telling me this actually had a Spider-Man head this whole time, and I could have just popped that mask off? Like, that was how tight it was on there. I'm like...
Well, that's like, I remember... like you were saying, you were hot shit.
Yeah.
Listen, me, and I'm trying to think, what grade was I? I was in kindergarten or one. I was in second grade when the first Raimi movie came out. Mm-hmm. Listen, I had every fucking toy except MJ and Jameson.
Yeah.
I was the hottest shit in the fucking playground when I brought that in. Because I remember there was one day where we did show and tell. Mm-hmm. And like, bro, I was like, I told my mom, like, I'm bringing my Spider-Man stuff in. It's like I had like my Raimi shirt on, you know, with the one where he's fighting the Goblin. Like, it was like one of those silk shirts. You remember all those silk shirts? I had one of those. So like, I brought that in, and I'm like, so like it got to my turn. I was all fucking pumped, man. I had the normal Spider-Man. I had the one where he was in the human spider outfit. Yeah. I had the Goblin with the glider, like the good one, which I rebought recently. I had the one where it's Norman with the chair and it talked. Yeah. I brought all those in, and I was like, this is my Spider-Man stuff. And I had so many people that were like, bro, he's got all of them. I'm like...
No, I had...
Because like my parents bought me toys and my grandma bought me toys. And so like, I even at that age, I was smart enough to figure out I can collaborate this and get all of them.
Yeah. Well, because here's the thing, when I was a kid, I basically knew how to work the system more or less. Like,
same.
As long as I behaved and didn't say too much, if we got to the toy section, my mom or Melissa would be like, you can get like an action figure. Well, then I would go down that aisle and I would just be like, all right.
That'd be me. We would go to Walmart. My mom would be like, I'll meet you at magazines. If anybody tries to grab you, what do you do? Scream at the top of my lungs? Okay. And then like I just went off. I would come back with like a toy. Like, I want this.
Like, but
how much is it? $5? Rings up as 20. Okay, that's not $5 though. My mom had a lot. My mom finally caught on. Yeah. It's not $5. He's lying to me.
No, I to be fair, I don't think I ever did that. But I knew if I was real quiet and just, I could get something. No, it wasn't always a toy. Like if I were grown up, I'd be like, all right, I want a toy or a candy bar. Toy or a candy bar. Candy bar. I mean, obviously, candy bar. But
I regret not getting more stuff than I did, honestly.
Well, and to be fair,
that's the
as a kid, I loved playsets and stuff, but it was always action figures for me. I had so many. Well, you've seen like the action. I have like a bucket of action figures that from.
I wish I hadn't gotten rid of all mine because God, dude, I had so much.
And that was even before because not only did I have that, I had all the Kenner Batman stuff too.
So did I. I had a shit ton. I had every single Batmobile. Fucking imaginable.
I had this weird rocket thing that he was supposed to have. Like the whole reason I wanted it because it had a little button on it and it would literally make a bat signal out of the front of it. It was the lamest toy, but I loved it so much because I'm like, it's my own personal bat signal.
Do you remember the Batman toy? Now, this is so off topic now, but this is just coming with it.
I mean, to be fair, we're talking about memories about
Do you remember the animated Batmobile that the top of it would pop out and it would be the Batwing?
Yes, I do remember that.
I found the Batwing part at a fucking thrift store up in Erie.
Yeah.
And bought it and I had my mom buy it as a kid, but I never knew it was for the Batmobile. I just thought it was a Batwing, you know?
Sadly I didn't have anything Batmobile wise from the animated series. The Batmobile I had was from Batman Forever.
I had
Not only did I have that, you remember that weird thing he rides in at the end of Batman and Robin? That weird I had that, and I loved that thing.
I had the new Batman Adventures one.
Yeah.
Which, God, I wish I still had that. I loved that toy.
No, that...
I had a Batman and Robin one, which was remote.
Yeah.
It was like a remote control car.
No, I got you.
I had a Batman Forever one that was a phone. Mm-hmm. Because there was a guy that worked at where my parents worked, and he was a thrift guy, you know, and he knew I really liked Batman. And so anytime he would find Batman stuff, he would always buy it and just be like, Carol, Mark, I got your kid another toy. Yeah. And my mom would be like, stop giving him toys, man. God, he has enough.
Oh, no, because to say nothing of my obsession with Toy Story when it came out, because I had so many
I had most of the stuff from Toy Story, too.
Probably one of the highlights of my Christmases was, and my mother always talks about how it was basically like Jingle All the Way with the Turbo Man thing. They released this rocket ship with a little Buzz and Woody figure. The rocket ship was shaped like the package from the movie, like that Buzz came in. And I wanted that thing so bad because it looked so cool. It looked like I'm like, that's so cool. And it had little buttons on top, like his chest. Yeah. And they had different noises. It was cool. And my mother was like, I had to basically beat up 3 old ladies with a stick to get that.
Yeah, it like I said, and it wasn't just that because here's my thing. I was very weird with figures at that age. I played with them, but this is something I would do as well. Yeah. And you might laugh at this because this will sound very me-ish, okay? Because I was very into drawing and stuff as a kid. I would set them up perfect.
Oh, you did.
And then I would sketch it.
You would sketch them doing poses.
Yes.
That's amazing.
I remember one time I had my mom graded. I was like, what do you think of this? C. I'm like, I wanted an A. You got to work your way up to an A. So I went back and I drew it again. B. I'm like, fucking damn, I'm trying to redo it again. A. I'm like, okay, now we're good. I can settle with that. Now we're okay. I can live with this. For me, I just had notebooks after notebooks filled with that.
For me, I think part of the reason, my mom was so let me get into Batman and Spider-Man because I wanted comics and stuff, and she's like, you know what? He's reading. At his age, he's reading. I mean, to be fair, I read a lot of books. That's how my parents did it.
He's reading.
Because I remember...
and then it got to a point where my parents he's reading them too much.
Yeah,
so we got to get him into some other shit.
Because I'm sure it still happened for you. I remember the Scholastic book magazines where you could buy books.
That was where I got my Spider-Man PC game from.
I was about to say...
It was a book fair order.
One of my favorite memories, and I still have it because you've seen it. One of my favorite, because I was into Spider-Man, I want to know because I'm one of those people that when I get into something.
Was it the Falco guide?
I remember they had that.
I wanted that so bad, but here's the thing. This is how much of an asshole I was as a kid, okay? And I'm not afraid to admit I was an asshole as a kid. My buddies Brian and Colin watching this, they'll probably agree, no, he was an asshole.
Yeah.
Brian will be like, he didn't let me use his coloring books because he wanted them to be comic accurate and he didn't want me fucking it up.
Oh, you would have hated me as a child with coloring because I
God, I was a Nazi with coloring.
Because I would color outside the lines a little bit because I was just not.
Bro, it was to the point. I was meticulous. But what I would do is the local library had that, the X-Men guide, and the Batman guide, all the Ultimate guides.
Yeah.
I would check the Spider-Man one out, renew it until I couldn't renew it anymore.
Yeah.
Turn it in. Get the Batman one. Renew it until I couldn't renew it anymore. Yeah. Get the Spider-Man one. I would just kept checking them out so no one else would get them. I was an asshole.
I remember seeing that book and I'm like, are you telling me I could have all the knowledge of Spider-Man at my fingertips?
That was basically me. I was like,
because you have to remember.
Yes. That was where I knew most of my X-Men stuff for years from that book.
You have to remember, I'm 30 years old. I lived in a time where the internet was not nearly as usable as it is nowadays.
So you gotta remember, I grew up with dial-up. I was like, you ain't getting shit.
Yeah, no.
And that was before Wiki really existed. So like, if you wanted wanted comic knowledge, you were SOL.
Yeah,
you had to go out and get it.
Well, not only that, like the only places online if you'd go to like forums, and let me tell you,
going to forums back then was not fucking fun.
Yeah, because like there's all this etiquette bullshit, and they would ban you for not doing like forums back then.
Do an introduction post or you're banned automatically, or like
do an
intro, you don't get access to the forums.
It's like all I want to know is this question, you assholes.
Yeah, that's how people were about it. People still are like that,
and they would do that to like kids too, which I mean, fair, but like at the same time, like let's just say people complaining about gatekeeping. It's better than it was. Like gatekeeping's still a problem, but like at least people are willing to answer your fucking questions.
Yeah.
But I remember getting that book, and because you've seen my copy. It is well loved and worn. I need to one day get like an updated version, especially because like they've updated it a couple of times. But one of the reasons why I haven't gotten it updated yet is I don't want to get to the part where it introduces one more day. Like I'm kind of waiting till like Spencer's run is old enough that like they're gonna redo it again and then,
because you've seen my shop. I have a couple other Spidey reference books that you had never seen before, tabletop ones that I found because I Amazon dive. I just go for shit on Amazon. Well, I brought that one and you were like, "What is this?" Yeah, well, you're just looking through like, "What is this?"
And it helps that because it was an official thing. Because back in the day,
you would get bootlegs.
Well, like people would just make unofficial guides to the character, and I'm like. So you wouldn't know how much accuracy you were getting there, and they would get outdated real quick. Because
I remember when I was in school, big thing was the Scholastic Book Fair used to get the Marvel Encyclopedia.
Yeah, no.
I used to get so much Marvel shit from.
Actually, I own the Marvel and DC Encyclopedia.
I got my X-Men one from that, which I sadly no longer have. That got ruined. My basement flooded one time.
Oh, that's what else the worst.
The most important thing I ever got from the Scholastic Book Fair, though, was the digest version of Spider-Girl volume number 1.
Actually,
that was the most important thing I ever bought at a book fair.
I got a few digests for Ultimate Spider-Man that way.
I remember getting that. Like I remember going to the book fair and looking around. I didn't really see anything. I was like, I think I was gonna get like an X-Men book.
Yeah.
Or some shit, like one of those X-Men digests. I looked at, I'm like Spider-Girl. I'm like, what is this? And it's like I thought it was like a joke.
Yeah.
And so I looked through it and I'm like,
and then you read it, you're like, oh, this is some real shit.
I looked through it and I'm like, well, this is what got me, because I had read that guide so many times.
Yeah.
And I remember being so interested in the Clone Saga because nobody talked about it.
Yeah.
You couldn't find any info on it. You couldn't find them comics, at least for me.
Yeah.
So I remember I recognized the suit and I looked at it. I'm like, I gotta get this just to read what this is.
Yeah.
So I paid for it. I read the whole thing. We're talking like 8 issues.
Yeah.
Read it all in a day, and then I reread it. I reread it on the bus home.
Yeah.
I didn't talk to people on the bus ride home that day. I was like, no, I gotta fucking reread this.
I gotta reread this.
I gotta reread this, man. I gotta read this. This is good.
Oh, yeah.
I told all my friends about it. I'm like, you gotta read this.
You gotta read this.
You gotta read this. This is some good shit.
But and to be fair, when I got a little bit older, I used to have comic subscriptions, which at some point I need to get back into because I'd like to do it again, but.
Get it from Marvel.com because they have a sale going on.
Sadly, my first subscription to comics was neither Batman nor Spider-Man. My first comic subscription was to the Archie Sonic comics. Because I loved those comics. The ones that include the phrase, and then Knuckles' dad microwaves him as a baby. And then Charmy's best friend dies of an LSD overdose from eating tainted chili dogs.
Speaking of subscriptions, I don't want to interrupt your
No,
some of those classy lines right there, but
no.
You were also, as you've told me a couple different times, you were a subscriber to Amazing during the One
run.
More Day,
the
Brand New
Straczynski
Day run,
yeah.
which I know you wanted to talk about. Because
okay.
at that point, I wasn't really reading the comics. I was mainly, I'm going to be honest, I was mainly watching the movies.
Yeah.
Mainly because I couldn't get the comics anymore.
To be fair, that time was kind of a weird period for me. I'd gotten into Spidey, or I was still into Spidey, and I was my go-to comic subscription at the time was Amazing. And I actually argue part of the reason why I got into such an anime kick during that time, well, there's a couple of reasons. One, I had fallen out with like Power Rangers because it went to the Disney Channel, which I didn't get until like I was 14. I had gone into Yu-Gi-Oh, which really kicked up my love of anime. And I had liked the Straczynski run. I loved a lot of it. There were a couple of hiccups in that, mainly
Sins
Past and One More Day. But as a whole, I liked reading it. I loved the direction Straczynski was going with the character. Because you've read bits of Straczynski.
I just bought the second volume of his omnibus that just got reissued.
Straczynski's run with
I own volume 1 of that. I just bought the second one.
Straczynski's run, hiccups aside, I could care less about the totem shit. But to be fair, when
the good stuff in there outweighs the bad.
And to be fair, I don't even think the totem stuff at the beginning was that bad. It was kind of an interesting idea, and he also didn't be like, okay, yeah, I'm introducing the idea that there's magic spider gods, but it may not be if you don't like it. But he moved the character forward. It felt like there was traction. Because after the Clone Saga, and to be fair, one of the reasons that annual you have is so hated is because it's during that period with Howard Mackey, and a lot of people say that Howard Mackey's run on the character is even worse than the Clone Saga, and he only wrote for a year or two. Think about that.
That's bad.
There are people that think that period is worse than the Clone Saga, and to be fair, I know of that. Actually, no, it was 99 to 2002 when Straczynski started writing. So it was about the same time as the Clone Saga, but people still said they would read Clone Saga over Howard Mackey's bullshit, which I don't think is fair to Howard because he was literally given this title after the Clone Saga ran it into the ground.
And it's that the late 90s is such a weird ass period for Spidey.
Yeah, especially because
they just omnibused a bunch of that, and I still haven't got it.
Yeah.
I want to, but I'm just at the same time I'm just God, that is such a whack period for the character.
They've got so much,
but I gotta get to it eventually.
Yeah. It's you've got shit like the 5th Green Goblin, who
we don't talk about.
We don't talk about because there's nothing to him. Yeah. They tried hinting that maybe it was Harry brought back from the dead. It's just a clone that has a bunch of different faces and then melts.
To which the fans were like, "No more fucking clones! No. Enough!"
You have MJ getting stalked and the shit with Jill Stacy and
then
their marriage falling apart.
Then you have the dumbass fucking plane thing. Which I was so worried when the PS4 game said MJ's gonna go overseas and cover this war. I'm I swear to fuck if you guys do this, I'm gonna be mad.
Yeah.
Don't bring that idiotic storyline back.
There's that. You have the Gathering of 5 in the final chapter, which
big whoop.
They're not very good.
Not terrible, but not very good either.
It just was not very good. But and it just felt like Peter was stuck in place. Nothing was happening. Say what you will about the Clone Saga, at least stuff happened.
Yeah, they were trying to push stuff forward.
The
problem was they were trying to push too much stuff forward all at one time.
Yeah, well, that and people, they kept changing out people, and people were you gotta stretch this out, we're making money. It's kind of weird because during the 90s, unless you were Spider-Man, Daredevil, or X-Men,
you weren't getting shit.
You were making money.
Even FF, because FF had their own show for a little bit.
Even FF, their comics were because you remember what the FF was like. Reed was in that stupid flak jacket.
I don't want to talk
Ben was wearing a helmet.
I don't want to talk about 90s FF. Let's not talk about it.
But if it makes you feel better, it was almost everybody except Spider-Man, Daredevil, and the X-Men.
Oh, I know. I've read The Crossing.
Yeah. Oh, right. Yeah. We're gonna get to that at some point.
I'm almost done with it. We're gonna get there.
And then come Heroes Reborn, it's like a complete 180 with the exception of like Daredevil and X-Men, because Daredevil and X-Men were still... The only reason they stopped trucking along was because like Disney bought X-Men, or bought everything else except X-Men, and Fox owned that. So Disney's like, no, you gotta tank X-Men so we can get that back. You gotta ruin X-Men. And then they, like, Spider-Man just went downhill, and they're like, well, we don't really care. We've got Ultimate Peter. We've got Ultimate Spider-Man. Ultimate Spider-Man's selling great. But then, like, someone at Marvel must have been like, we can't kill Amazing.
That's the flagship title.
Not only is it the flagship title, it was Stan's greatest creation. You can't let it flounder like they did. And Straczynski's run was, again, great.
It was like a return to form, really.
It was like a return to form. And then Civil War happened. Like, we put a lot of blame on One More Day. I also put blame...
I honestly do think Civil War is anything wrong in Marvel Comics today, I do blame on Civil War.
Because one of these days we will, like... I gotta
will
find,
review it eventually. I need to buy it.
The problem is, there's so much you gotta buy for Civil War.
I know. I'm hoping they'll just do a Marvel, like the Marvel Omnibus series.
Yeah.
I hope they'll just collect all that shit so I can just buy it.
I feel like that's hard because, like, there's so many just singular issues. I honestly think at some point, like, I will just hunker down, just buy, like, the Civil War trade, the journal trade.
Because Action Toyman had a bunch of those. Remember,
Yeah,
I almost bought the
bunch of
FF one.
But, like, Civil War is just such a bloated mess.
But
like,
everybody puts it on such a fucking pedestal.
Because, like, oh,
it's not really that great.
Yeah, it's a lot like, say, DC's Identity Crisis in that regard. Because it's so mature and dark and, like...
It's like, who cares?
Like, just because it's mature and dark doesn't mean it's actually good. Especially someone like me who actually likes Iron Man, and they decide, let's make Iron Man Adolf Hitler. Let's just make him a Nazi.
We're not even going to bring up Civil War 2 what it did to my girl Carol. We're not going to talk about
Civil War 2. It's not even like good. Like, people like Civil War, like, it's not good.
Civil War 2 is just character assassination on Carol for no fucking reason other than just kill her.
No, all because, well, we're making a Civil War movie for the MCU, so we got to make a Civil War 2.
Civil War 2 is why I argue people that were against the Captain Marvel movie before any of the big issues came out with it. That is why, because people think of Carol and they think of Civil War 2.
To which I say, the Iron Man movie was made in 2008. Civil War was only like 2 years before that. And no one had a problem with those movies.
Yeah.
I'm like, clearly it was only because she's a woman. Like, I'm gonna throw that out.
No,
I don't even care if I get mad. Like, you were all just like, oh, Captain Marvel. Well, first of all, she's already an asshole from Civil War 2. And second of all, she's so powerful. Like,
there were people saying, I'm not going to watch a fucking show about Miss Marvel when Kamala's show got announced. I'm like, you people are fucking racist and sexist.
Yeah, like, leave Kamala alone. She's not even, if anyone was let down by Civil War 2, it was Kamala.
Yeah.
Like, I feel bad for Kamala, because currently she's her favorite hero is a villain.
Yeah, it's horseshit. But anyway, getting back to you reading One More Day.
Because, because
I have almost all your issues of it.
Like, the only reason you don't have my One More Day stuff is because, like,
I bought those issues at Action Toyman.
Well, then, like, I wanted all my Straczynski stuff, even the One More Day stuff, because I'm like,
I know you wouldn't give me Sins Past either, which I was like, I'll get a trade of that. That's okay.
Well, then, like,
I'll get those issues eventually.
It feels like I was gonna give you my herpes.
You were gonna give me some trash. Like, you were gonna go up and you want to go through my trash can too?
Yeah. No, I still hold the Straczynski because even with the bad, that Straczynski stuff is
still good.
Well, it's important to me because it's where I got really into Spider-Man.
There was an attempt.
Yeah, and Civil War, especially because at the beginning of Civil War, I'm like, well, this is kind of interesting. Especially because I was one of those kids. I'm like, there's no way they're gonna actually create a Civil War in this stuff. I thought it was not gonna happen. I was dumb.
You thought it was going to be bait and switch.
Yeah, I was like, this isn't going to be how it's going to go. And to be fair, I was only reading the Spider-Man tie-in stuff. I knew nothing of what was going on in the titles. I didn't know about that until much later on.
Well, like when Lynn Carr talked about shit, right?
Well, not just when Lynn Carr talked about it, because like I knew about that before Lynn Carr talked about it, because I got really into reading the Spidey Kicks Butt stuff, because this is around the time where I was like going on to YouTube, and like I found Spidey Kicks Butt. He talked about the heinousness stuff that happened in Civil War, from like Tony making a gulag in the negative zone, to creating a clone of Thor, to that clone of Thor killing Goliath, to
just all the bullshit that happened during Civil War.
To like, Sue's mad at Reed, lets him bone her, and then she leaves with the kids. Because Civil War is messy, nasty, and the worst part is you don't even know what they're fighting over, because they didn't even know what was in the Registration Act as they were writing the story. That didn't come until after it was done. And people are like, well, no, it's about like the fact that they have to be soldiers working for S.H.I.E.L.D. and all this. I'm like, that's what they implied. We never saw an actual document of the Superhuman Registration Act until after the story was finished.
Yeah.
And Tony decides, well, I gotta ruin Spider-Man's life. He needs to out himself as Spider-Man.
Boy.
There's not even a rule in the act that says you need to publicly announce who you are.
They did that for shock value, is what they did.
They did.
For.
And it adds
nothing.
Yeah, especially because...
It especially adds nothing because then with One More Day, they retcon it the fuck out of existence. So it never even happened.
Because, it points everything out Cap said when he pointed it out. Like people are gonna have their friends and loved ones killed because of this stupid act to reveal yourself to the public and the government. What happened? But especially because and that's the worst part is there was some cool stuff that happened with it. Like Jameson and him talk it out. Like Flash finds out that his hero is also nerdy Peter Parker. And then Aunt May gets shot.
Now here's my question for you, and I've thought about asking you this a couple times, and I've just never gotten around to it. Did you actually think they were going to go through with the deal to get rid of the marriage? Just for you reading the comics when they were coming out, because I know you just said that you didn't think Civil War was going to actually happen. Did you think they were going to do that, or did you think it was going to last as long as it actually has? It was gonna be like the Mary Jane in a plane crash thing. Like it was gonna be around for a year, and then they were gonna retcon it, and then it was it never happened.
To be honest, as I was reading because here's the thing about One More Day: when you read it, you don't even know the deal's gonna happen until the last issue. It's actually the third issue, because the first two issues is just him trying to find someone to heal Aunt May from a bullet wound. To be fair, the bullshit part about One More Day is he goes to the best scientists on the planet. He goes to T'Challa, who has the advanced science of Wakanda. He goes to Dr. Doom. He literally tells Dr. Doom he will do anything for him. He has a deal with Loki, because at this point he had helped Loki rescue one of his daughters. Mm-hmm. And Loki's like, I owe you a debt. If whatever you need, you come and see me. No one has ever gone back on that deal Loki has with him. I thought the story was going to end with him making a deal with Loki, to save
that would have made more sense.
It would have made more sense.
Than the stupid shit with Mephisto.
He goes to all these people, and they can't heal a bullet wound. They're like, she's too old. It's her time. I'm like
they're giving every excuse in the book, even if it's out of character.
Yeah. To the point where
I don't think any of these characters would have said no to him if they were properly written by an actual without the editorial decisions going on behind the scenes.
Certainly not Dr. Doom. Dr. Doom would have been like, yes, I will use you to fuck with Richards. Also, I did actually heal your
Even
aunt.
Black Panther, he would have been like, of course, you know?
Yeah, he's the kid. Like,
T'Challa ain't an asshole.
like that. At this point, it's established that both of them are totems for gods. Like, there's a point where T'Challa's like, fellow totem, because he's also because like part of King. For those of you who don't know, Black Panther's actually powers come from a panther god that they worship in Wakanda.
Yeah.
And
So there was nothing that you thought, like, you did not think that was going to go through, basically.
no, because I was reading the story, I'm like, how are they going to save Aunt May? Or I even thought like,
Maybe they were going to kill her again, like
yeah.
they've done for like the 4th time now.
Yeah, like especially because I had read Back in Black, and I was like, and Back in Black was actually really good because it's about Peter like doing really desperate things because he wants revenge, and like the issue before it, he talks about all these crimes he's committing to get Aunt May put into like a good hospital, and he even goes to Tony. There's this big drag out fight he has with Tony, where it ends with him using every single bit of web fluid from his organic web shooters to stick Tony to a wall. And he's like, I loved you. You were like a brother to me. Like, and you betrayed me, Tony. And now my aunt's dying and you're not going to do a damn thing about it. He got Tony so upset that Tony was like, I'm going to give this, basically he told Jarvis to give him like this check for like $3 million. And the doctors have like $3 million and they're like, all we can do is make her comfortable.
That doesn't make any fucking sense whatsoever. Like, that doesn't make any sense.
And this comes to me with like, this is also a comic book. You're telling me
when crazy shit happened, we got a comic with a motherfucking duck.
Yeah.
Who talks and knows quack fu.
You're telling me
gonna tell me?
You're telling me there's no like he goes to Doctor Strange. You're telling me magic can't heal a fucking bullet wound?
Yeah.
And then we get to the because to be fair,
the deal issue.
Because like I didn't have the 2nd or 3rd issue because I only had Amazing, and those two were in like the other Spider
tie-ins,
which is they're not even tie-ins; they're the other Spider titles. Which I'm like, don't fucking do that.
I hate when comics
Just
do that.
put them in the Amazing because that's where the story started.
Yeah.
Like I didn't read those later issues until much later, and we get to the issue with the red-haired girl.
Mm-hmm. That is, most people now, like I actually talked with somebody about this. A lot of people theorize that is either May,
It was
or is that Annie? Because Annie came so much later.
No, I guarantee you that was supposed to be Mayday because you also have to remember Quesada didn't just hate the marriage; he hated the Spider-Girl concept. Like he constantly wanted it canceled. The only reason it didn't was because fans wanted it.
That, and I think didn't Tom tried to pull a lot of strings back then.
And like the 3rd issue is actually where it gets frustrating because then she shows him these different versions of himself if he had actually like wasn't so selfish with his powers, because they try to say that he's selfish because he wants to
which
use
is horseshit.
Which to the point where Linkara even is like, no, Peter Parker actually like it actually reversed him in his mind that Peter Parker is actually a really selfish, greedy character because like he can't figure out how to balance his life as Spider-Man, which I don't. It's one of the few things I disagree with Linkara when it comes to comic opinions. I'm like, that's just shitty writing. When he's written well, I like because I'm one of those people like, if I think the writing is shitty with the character, I just ignore it.
Yeah. Me as a Carol Danvers fan, I understand.
But so like, and then it shows these, one of which is just,
and as a Jean Grey fan, I understand.
One of which is just a fat, overweight comic book fan that complains about everything, and literally it's just written to be like, this is going to be the people that don't like this story, so we're going to write you like this. Which I like. It's just a big middle fucking finger to like because at this point, Straczynski only wrote the first 2 issues. Quesada finished this because Straczynski's like, no, I'm not going to assassinate this character. And like to this day, I don't think Quesada still gets, because like
he doesn't understand why we don't like him.
It's not just the fact that he broke up the marriage. It's like
that he did it in such a shitty way.
Because Spider-Man makes a deal with the devil. It's not good. Like, when we got to that last issue and I saw that because I do remember this, and his marriage is erased by making a deal with, because I barely knew who Mephisto was at the time. I just knew him as Satan. I'm like, this is literally just Satan.
Yeah.
Like, as someone who who is a Christian. I'm like, this is just Satan. You're having my character make a deal with Satan? That's not a thing a hero does. The worst part is Mary Jane is like, no, we'll make the deal. He's like, you can't live with knowing the fact that it's your fault Aunt May's dying. I'm like, except that, like, he could. Like,
yeah, they don't write Mary Jane right in those issues either. That frustrates them.
To say nothing of the fact that issue opens with her puking in the bathroom and kind of implying that that's morning sickness. So, like, and then we get the scene where Mephisto turns his head into the girl. He's like, this is the child you would have had if you hadn't undone the marriage. Which I'm like, Mephisto, there's no need to pour salt into the wound. You're already ruining their lives.
This is the same guy, though, that tortured Susan Storm after she had the miscarriage in the 90s.
I know.
So, like, it's in character for that fucking idiot, but...
It's in character. I just wish Doctor Strange at some point came out and just bitch-slapped his ass.
Okay, now wait a minute.
Because, like, I love Strange because, like, he's one of the few people that has actually just slapped Mephisto around like a motherfucker. The only other person being the Silver Surfer, who also is like, I've had enough of
I'm
your
on the
bullshit.
Doctor Strange train right now because I'm hoping he undoes this stupid shit.
No, I'm assuming that's what they're... I'm assuming that's what... Because, like, there's no other reason for Strange to be there.
I'm hoping and I'm praying.
Like, there's no other reason for Strange to be there.
All the clues I've shown you, and it's just all the stuff I've put together. I went and bought a trade of One More Day.
Yeah.
Not only that, I didn't just cheap out. I bought I forgot to tell you about this. I got the Marvel Premiere hardback edition.
Yeah.
So I spent some money to get it. Just to be like, I need to see if I can find more clues.
Fair.
I am so convinced of this that, and I've told Jared about this, I am so convinced of that if the editorial staff shoots Spencer down on this, I hope he fucking quits the title.
Yeah,
because
I do as well.
I hope he pulls his stern and says, no, fuck you.
I don't think they will, though, because, like...
I don't think they can.
Disney has mandated that, like, you all need to stop making these comics unsellable. You need to start doing what the fans want. Because if there's one thing Disney gets, is
if the fans like you, they spend the money.
But yeah, and then we get the scene where he wakes up in Aunt May's bed, and I'm like, are you telling me he's living with Aunt May again? He's back to, like, square one? And to further cement how much he's back to square one, it ends with everybody, like, at, like, Harry's coming back party, and they all toast, and you see Peter's wrist, and he's got the fucking, like, web shooters again, which meant that, like, he lost all of his powers from the other, which, how does that change anything? Like, how does Mephisto reversing their marriage change the other shit? And let me tell you, Brand New Day is a fucking slog. So after One More Day...
I still haven't read it. That's how much of a slog it is.
So after One More Day, all the Spider titles except Amazing got canceled. And for wherever they were going to get, like, that issue of, like, Spectacular or Friendly Neighborhood was going to get an issue, they just got an Amazing. You got 3 issues of Amazing a month. Now, I know what you're thinking. That sounds like a kind of cool deal. You get three helpings of Spider-Man every month.
It was bad.
What you didn't know is that, like, they were actually changing who was writing the title every story arc because they were trying to find a permanent, like, writer for the Amazing title. And all of them were fucking abysmal. I kind of want to save like a video for, like, where I go into it, but to give you the highlights of Brand New Day, because we talk about how bad Slott is. In the Brand New Day stuff, he was actually, like, the best one.
I know, which you've told me about that, to which I'm like, God, like, I dread getting to that part.
So, highlights of Brand New Day include the introduction of Overhaul, a character who overhauls vehicles and makes them green, black, and have like cool. I am a 16-year-old that thinks, like, Gran Turismo cars are super cool, yo. He isn't even a villain I would put for Spider-Man. That's more like an Iron Man villain.
Yeah.
Or the character Freak, who is a junkie who accidentally stumbles into Kurt Connor's lab and injects himself with stem cells, thinking they were vials of heroin, and turns himself into a monster that, whenever he gets killed by something, he regenerates and no longer can be killed by that. Who Spider-Man defeats by tricking him into snorting a bunch of lime lime rock powder and causing him to go into a coma.
Are you going to say Jackpot is one of the highlights?
Jackpot! A character that we all thought was actually Mary Jane, but it turns out it wasn't Mary Jane.
Because they pussied out and didn't do it.
The fucking introduction of, who's that character you don't like in the Spider-Man game? The female villain that's a YouTuber.
Screwball.
The introduction of Screwball.
She's annoying as fuck.
The introduction of Screwball, who is in fact annoying as fuck. The introduction of Menace, one of the worst Goblin characters ever, and that says something when Gabriel and Sarah were pretty bad Goblin characters. Oh, the fact that they brought back Gabriel and Sarah during this time, during the American Sun storyline.
Which nobody wanted.
The stupid Spider-Man serial killer storyline, where someone stole one of his mask and spider tracers and made it look like he was murdering people with a gun. Which led to Spidey literally get putting on trial for the serial killer arc. The fact that the serial killer was his roommate, who they kind of also wanted to hook him up with said roommate's sister, who got him drunk at Aunt May's wedding in issue 600. Except that she really didn't get him drunk, she just wanted to bang him. And then kind of implied that she knew that and let him believe he was drunk, which has some really icky connotations. Oh, and let's not forget the introduction of fucking State Carly Cooper. Nuff said.
It's okay.
And then...
Dan Slott can't hurt you anymore.
And then we came to Straczynski's, because one of the things I loved about One More Day is that one of the reasons Straczynski left is because he's like, at least allow me to explain the timeline now that it's altered and how it works. Because Sada's response to that was,
no.
It's magic. We don't have to explain it.
And again, he wonders why half the people don't like him. Fans and probably editorials and writing staff alike.
The same man who said, if you were mad about it, go back to your basement and masturbate to pictures of Elektra. Yeah.
I'm glad he kind of doesn't have a job anymore.
He
kind of still does, but I'm glad he doesn't have
here's
the
the
same
thing.
job.
They kept bringing up how the deal worked about how people didn't know who Spider-Man was anymore. And it got people were so frustrated with it that they were like, you need to make a story to explain it. That's actually why they brought Mary Jane back to the title, because they needed to have basically her and
That
Peter.
was the moment in time.
Yeah, this was Omit, right? One Moment in Time. And Omit is fucking horrible. I was in college.
I only like it because of the covers.
Those are the only good things about that.
Oh, I know. That's the only good thing about it is the covers.
I was in college when the issues were coming out. And I hated it off the bat because it was called Omit. And the title was One Moment in Time. I'm like, no, we're not doing no more One More Day shit. But I read the issues anyways because I was subscribed. At this point, I was like, no.
It's got to get better.
It's going to get better.
But it didn't.
Well, it kind of did with Big Time. Like, as much as I rag on Slott, like, a few of his titles up until about Spider Island were passable. Spider Island is actually pretty good. I like Spider Island.
Spider-Verse is kind of okay. Spider-Geddon, kind of okay.
Spider-Verse is shitty. Every issue is the same fucking thing. But then we get to One More in Time, and Quesada wrote this. And man, it's so bad. Because it takes place, it's supposed to be the substitution of the wedding issue. And literally, like, chunks of it is just the wedding issue. Then we get to the part where Peter, the night before the wedding, fights some random burglar. And it's just some random burglar. The dude, thanks to Mephisto as like a bird, because they try to play like, oh, Mephisto's not actually in this. And it's not Mephisto that changed everything. Except this red bird is everywhere. It causes Peter to fall off a building. And the dude almost kills Spider-Man with a cinder block. They had Marvel's flagship character.
Almost get knocked off by some nobody with a fucking cinder block.
Who comes back at the end and tries to kill Mary Jane. Because in fact, he almost kills her. He shoots her with a bullet. Which Doctor Strange fixes with his magic.
So
Yeah. And it gets better because basically The reason Peter and MJ can't get married is
How can everybody defend this bullshit?
the people that are anti the marriage.
I know.
That is all it.
To which I would tell the people that are anti-marriage, go back home to the basement and jack off to pictures of Gwen.
But
yeah, I'm gonna be that much of an asshole.
Basically, after Peter doesn't get to the wedding, you think it's like they're gonna make MJ so petty. She's like, you couldn't even hold this date, Tiger. It's over. No, what happens is MJ's like, I still love you and I want to be with you, but we can't get married because then we have to have we could have children, which it's like 2010.
Mayday, am I a fucking joke to you?
Not only that, like I know people that like we can't afford a wedding, but we're having kids anyways. Like I know plenty of people that are just
same.
She's like, I want to have children with you, Peter, but I can't do that because you're Spider-Man. And you want to know how they made the wound worse?
And that contradicts how MJ has been for the last 20 years.
You want to know how they make that scene worse? They show a picture of MJ visualizing them having a kid. It's a daughter with brown hair.
Yeah, okay, so now I'm getting pissed.
So to further hammer the point that they're not going to...
The Spider-Girl community instantly, are you fucking joking me?
No, that's exactly what happened when Omit came out. The Spider-Girl community is like, you do not need to bring us into your bullshit, Quesada. We are already mad that you ruined this marriage and this character. You do not need to hammer home the fact that Mayday no longer exists.
To which I'm sure he's like, no, I fucking have to. Because he's I'm sorry. I don't like to use this word to describe people, but honestly, do you know if he has a Twitter?
He probably does.
I would love to tweet at him, you are a cunt, honestly.
But
no explanation, just you are a cunt.
Yeah. So basically, the time between them wedding and Civil War happens. And basically, he tries to say that all this stuff happened as it did, it's just Peter and MJ were no longer married. And I was actually a big fan of the Spider-Man crawl space at the time. It was hilarious because they basically... you remember that one issue where Peter and MJ are like trying to have sex on Aunt May's place like during Christmas?
Yeah.
And she comes in the rooms like, do you kids need anything? And Peter's, she's
I know.
Oh my gosh, I forgot you're married. What's hilarious is they cross out, I forgot you were married, and just had her say, oh my gosh, I'm sorry, I forgot that you're a sexually active couple. Because that's literally like you're like, you can't just say everything happened as it did. It's just this one thing didn't, because so much changes. Like, that changes the way Kraven's Last Hunt is. It changes so many stories.
Bro,
like,
I'm gonna be honest with you. I need you to wrap this up because I can't deal with this
let
anymore.
Let me at least get up to the...
I am so fucking
Let me at least
fed up now.
get up to the... Because you have to...
No, I'm just...
No, I know.
I'm also keeping track of time.
We're almost there.
I don't want to run out of space.
So we come to the part where, after Civil War and Aunt May's dying in the hospital. It literally is the point where she's going to die. And there's a nurse with red hair at this. I thought the nurse was going to save her. What happens is Mephisto makes it that she just doesn't die. Basically, she's dying of a heart attack Peter resuscitates her from a death by a bullet wound with CPR.
Mind you, that's not how that works. At any point, that is not how that works.
To quote Red versus Blue, so you revived him from a bullet to the head? Yeah, I know, that's what I said. And so basically after all this, MJ goes back to Aunt Anna's place because apparently the guy from the beginning with the wedding issue that was going to kill Peter, I guess is obsessed with MJ, comes to Aunt Anna's place and ends up getting into chasing MJ around the house. Peter comes to her rescue, but not before she gets shot by the guy. And so basically at this point...
It's more of Quesada driving home the fact that he doesn't like Mary Jane.
Basically, Peter goes to Doctor Strange, because at this point he's so mad. He's like, you owe me, Strange. You owe me for the bullshit the Illuminati put me through in Civil War. And Doctor Strange, to be fair, during Civil War was like, I'm staying out of all this bullshit. I'm the Sorcerer Supreme. So he goes to Reed Richards and Tony, who at this point shouldn't have been able to help anyways, because at this point Tony's brain was erased by Norman Osborn. Mm-hmm. Long story there we're not going to get into.
Yeah, don't get into that.
Basically, Tony, Strange, and Reed come up with a plan to use the Extremis virus, magic, and Reed Richards' own science bullshit to make a wave of mist over the planet that would erase everyone's memory of who Peter Parker is. But if he tells people who he is, it'll make them remember that they always knew. And so Peter he heals MJ from the bullet wound. And he's like, get in the circle, Peter, or else you'll forget who you are too, which I don't know why Doctor Strange would do that. He's like, you can bring anyone else in with the circle. He was going to leave MJ out because he's like, I caused MJ so much pain, she should just forget who I am. But then he drags her in at the last minute because he's like, I can't live without her. Which, knowing Peter, even though I don't like the way this is going out, Peter would have been like, no.
He would have done that.
I think he would have let her, because he just like, I just ruined her life. Like, responsibility thing. But
yeah.
After that happens, MJ wakes up and finds out that this happened. She is so mad. She's like, why couldn't you have just let me forget? And that's what causes them to break up in one more day. Because she's like, why couldn't you have just let me be happy without you?
That makes no fucking sense.
Yeah. The only
this seals home the fact, and I know people somewhere, someone will find this and probably bullshit and argue with me about this. Joe Quesada, let me rephrase my prior statements. Joe Quesada is not anti-marriage. Joe Quesada is anti him being married to anybody that's not goddamn Gwen Stacy.
Honestly, he's anti-Spider-Man in my opinion. Especially with the way he let Dan Slott just write the character.
I just don't understand. It goes back to this whole shipping war, which we're not going to get into because that's more bullshit we're going to have to explain.
Yeah.
But, I don't understand, oh my God, I don't even have words. I don't even have fucking words.
The only thing that
as a Mary Jane fan, I don't have fucking words.
Like, the only thing that's
how mad I am.
And I forgot. They actually explained what Mary Jane whispered in One More Day that they didn't whisper. It basically is just like, I want you to let me have some feeling of remembrance for this because Peter will not make this deal for you unless it's that it wasn't like some big thing that like she remembers. It was literally, you need to let me make him make the deal because he won't make this deal unless I make him make it. I'm like, because it's like, no, MJ's okay with it because she wanted to save Aunt May. No, it's bad. The only thing passable to admit is that like MJ.
It's bad when you role play as a character on Tumblr and you feel like you write the character better than the fucking staff does.
Yeah, that's our feelings on Spider-Man. We're sorry this got a little angry during Spidiness, but I think I can make this better before we wrap up.
Oh, okay.
This should be coming out.
I regret that I don't have a present for you
it's
yet. It's still coming. Yeah,
but basically, since this is going to be close to Christmas, I thought I'd get him a gift, and we were going to get gifts to exchange. But so here's your gift, my dude. I hope this makes you feel better.
Aw. Why, thank you.
I saw that up at work, and I was like, that's pretty cool, but I was like, no, I'm going to give this to Colton.
That's very nice. Thank you.
It looks kind of like the Robot Chicken version of him.
It kind of does.
I think those are like the kind that like Robot Chicken uses, but
the Mecha ones. Yeah.
But
very nice.
Then I figured it was something that I don't think you would consider buying for yourself, and it was the only one up there. So I'm like, I'm just gonna buy this real quick without you knowing. So
I appreciate that. Thank you.
You're welcome, dude. But anyway, guys,
makes me feel better after the amount of bullshit that I feel pissed off about with Mary Jane right now.
How do you think I felt when I was reading this alone in my college room? It was not good, but we hope you enjoy Spider-Man. We've got more to come.
Hopefully less shit that's angry.
Because I do want to one day do the Brand New Day, because like there's so much dumb in that. But
and maybe by the time we do that, I'll read it and I can add.
Because Brand New Day is just fucking messy. But anyway, guys, I think that's gonna wrap it up for this episode. Sorry, it kind of devolved into anger, but like it just shows you how much we care about the character and how frustrated we were with the last 10 years of writing with this character. But anyway, guys, I think that wraps it up for this episode. Remember the Hyphen. Come back next week for more Spidey-ness, but until then, I'm Zongetsu134.
And I'm Average Joe Squad.
And as always, we ask you
to remember the Hyphen
and take care.